Remote control confusion. Welcome back to Pushing Technology to the Limit. I did some research today on media streamers. And the research that I was looking for is how they work. I came across this one reviewer. He was trying to discourage companies from using the IR technology. IR stands for infrared. Now, I have tested out two RF, that means radio frequency, media streamers. They're controlled by an RF remote. Now, I am not saying that every single RF remote is bad out there, but the ones that come with these internet-enabled devices are not teachable. And the one that I have probably about 21 remote controls on my desk right now. And I don't know about you, but having another remote control on my table next to my easy chair is not what I want. Now, the pros and cons about RF and infrared, well, let's just start with the RF, radio frequency. Like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, RF cannot be taught. So you cannot use a 6-in-1 programmable remote or 8-in-1 to eliminate your remotes. Now, IR as well has some drawbacks, but it's not nearly as much as the RF. With IR, you can get extenders, whether they're wired or wireless. And it's also, with this one remote that I have right now that I'll show you, it has combination IR and RF, which is fantastic. And I enjoy that remote a lot. But when they try to say, well, RF is better than IR, let me show you the remote controls I have. So here's the pile of remote controls that I have for my stereo equipment. Horrendous. That's 21 remote controls. And I do not have to mess with all these remotes because I have a teachable remote, which I'll show you next. Now right here I have 3 learning remotes. The one on the right is a universal remote control. That one has both IR and RF, which is a blast because you can send it through walls and floors, and it has perfect signal. The one in the middle is a Logitech. It's a learning remote. It's a pretty good remote and actually has better storage than the universal remote control. And the one on the left is another learning remote, which I use all 3 of these remote controls for 3 different rooms. Now the one on the left, the GE, is not as good. It's a pain to teach. The one on the in the middle, the Logitech, has just you plug it into your computer and then you program it that way. I found that kind of time consuming compared to the universal remote. Now, like I said, the universal remote control is not as feature rich as the Logitech, but I still like it, and the other 2 remote controls do not have RF capabilities. Now, the things that you got to think about when you're doing the RF and IR remotes is depending on what rooms you're going to have equipment in. And take from myself example, I have bought the same television, VCR or DVD player, streaming player, for each of my rooms. Now, take the RF remote and IR combination. If you have that remote and you have all the same equipment for the other rooms in your house, it will control every room that you have the equipment installed. Not a good idea. The other way to do it is having an IR sender. And this particular unit right here is a Radio Shack unit, and it works perfectly. I mean, with this universal remote control, I can receive the IR signal down cellar. And it basically is the receiver, and it translates the RF back into IR, which is infrared. That's the best way to go. Now, if you're like me, and you sit down at night to watch a movie, and you got to figure out, well, which one's the TV remote, which one's the home theater remote, it gets to be a hassle. Now, with these remotes, not the one on the left, but the right one and the middle one, I can hit one button and it turns on all the equipment at once and off. That is very easy. Although the one on the right, like I've said, is not as much features, so I cannot program more than one device onto one function, like the one in the middle. I have everything basically programmed into that one function. Say, like for my DVD player, I'll have the home theater volume, a couple of controls to the home theater stereo, and the power buttons for every single component that I'm going to use with my DVD player, whether it's the stereo, the TV, and the DVD player, or the VCR. But the one on the right, I gotta flip through each device, which is alright, and I'm not complaining about it, but I'm just saying that the one on in the middle is better. And the one on the left is my least favorite of remote controls to use. So if you buy one of these media streamers, like I have tested, well actually I've tested one, and it was a Roku, if I'm saying that right. It was an RF remote, and it was pitiful because it was line of sight. And my equipment is all in a control room. If you've watched my other videos in the past, that you can see my stuff in one control room. And I've talked to other people about the technical problems with the RF remotes. And that's what they told me, is that basically the RF remotes are for line of sight only, and they only work with that particular piece of equipment. And on top of that, there's another drawback to RF, okay? If you buy two Rokus, I've had this happen to another particular unit that I had. I had a Vizio Google player. It was conflicting with the other one. Like, I had one for my office, one for my living room, and the Vizio had a really nice feature, and I liked it before they outdated it. It had a feature with IR, infrared, and RF, radio frequency. Now, there's also Bluetooth, and that's some sort of radio frequency, but I am not totally understanding what Bluetooth is really broadcasting at, nor the RF remotes. But I'm just saying that there's a lot of drawback to these RF remotes. Now, what I want in a system, and I'm sure that people out there would agree with me, I'm not sure, it depends on what your system setup is like and how much you really use it. But to me, I'm a serious person when it comes to watching a movie. I just want to sit down, run one remote, and call it good. And then when I want to turn it all off, just hit the off button and it all goes off. Now when people are saying, I wish they would get rid of that IR stuff, bad idea. Because with IR, at least I can teach the 6-in-1 remote, the 8-in-1 remote, or whatever the device is, whatever that remote control will hold as far as devices. And, there's a lot to go with RF. And there's a lot of other issues like interference. I've had this, Roxio, or Roku. I keep forgetting which one I had, but it's the Roku device. Even had issues with running it right in the room. I have no idea why. But for many of you folks that have watched my shows before, know that I do not like wireless because it does not work good here. I don't know about you folks if you have the same problem at your home. But simple is better. And RF is way too finicky. At least with the IR, the infrared units, I can run it wirelessly or wired. I also have a wired IR sender in my living room. Now, there's a drawback to that, of course, because I have to aim it right at the TV set. And the RF one I have for my office, I don't have to aim it at anything. So, when you're looking for a media streaming device to replace your cable television, I strongly recommend going with the IR infrared remote controls. Because then you can just have one remote control sitting on your coffee table instead of two. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from what's going on out there. I try to keep it simple for you folks, but sometimes it's kind of hard. And I'll see you later next time on Pushing Technology to Limit.